You said you were the first canoe player here in San Francisco.
That's true. When the beginning 60s is when we started having live Middle Eastern nightclubs in the city in the Bay Area. And I was one of the first members of any kind of instrument to start working full-time professionally on the Strip, the North Beach area Strip.
Great.
And
so you taught Mimi.
Well, I exposed Kanun to Mimi. I didn't really tutor her that much. I mean, I inspired Mimi, let's put it that way.
So when you first started, who were the artists that you worked with?
Well, in the very, very beginning, we had
and what club?
Yusuf Koyumjian.
Yes.
George Bedrosian.
Yeah.
Vince Delgado. Najib Baba. Antoine Malouf. Fadil Shaheen. Ishmael, which is myself.
What's your last name, Ishmael?
That is my true last name.
Okay.
I only go by my last name.
Okay.
And we worked in the very, very beginning was the Vagabond Club.
Yes.
Where I first met the musicians.
Uh-huh.
And then shortly after that, when I turned 21 years old, I was allowed to work in the bars legally. And so then I joined up with all the musicians, and we worked the 12 Adler Place.
Yes.
We worked the Gigi Port Said
Yeah,
Club.
that sounded like a beautiful place.
We worked the Baghdad Club, and then finally it was the Kasbah, which superseded all the other clubs. So that's the basically how I started out in a professional musical Middle Eastern career. Although I did play many instruments prior to that time in my life. Since I was 8, I was a tutored musician. Classical piano.
Piano.
I was a symphony percussionist with major symphony orchestra.
Cool.
And I.
So you had melody, you had percussion.
Yeah, and I performed on other instruments too. I play a little oud. I'm not a pro on the oud. I play a little baglama saz. I played lots of percussions. Dumbek was one of my first Middle Eastern instruments. We called it dumbek. It's darbuka. Dumbek name is more the Armenian name for it.
Great. So Ishmael, tell me a little bit. You were just naming some of the dancers, both West Coast and East Coast.
Yes. In the early days of our Middle Eastern culture starting here in the Bay Area, we had dancers. Some of them were Turkish, some were American. And we had, of course, Jamila, who was presently, I'd say, the grandmother of all the dancers, probably. Jamila Salampur. I say it out of respect. We had Lena, we had Layla, who was famous in the Sean Connery movie From Russia with Love. She got a part in that. And we had Amina, who was still a monument here for the dancers in the Bay Area. And back east...
not Batista?
Magana
Baptista. There's a lot I need to go back into the...
This is just an introduction.
Yeah.
Back
east, I was associated with some famous dancers. Princess Naila, from Turkey. Soraya Melik. Fatosh. Princess Fatosh. Saleha, who was a wonderful Turkish dancer and vocalist. In those days, belly dancers didn't just come out and dance. They worked.
They were entertainers.
They sat on stage with the band.
Yes.
They played tambourines and tablas with the band, and they also did vocals too. So, and they were like beauty pageant girls. They were multi-talented. They weren't just sexy or good dancers, but they really had to...
Maybe we could start a wave of that again.
They had to earn their way.
Good.
Wouldn't that be a nice resurgence again?
Yeah. That's the tradition, really.
Yeah. Amel, you're a singer, aren't you?
Yeah, and I drum also because that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
You are not just a dancer.
Yeah.
You learn everything.